Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. We are going to be talking about single-payer Medicare for all. Yes, we've covered that before. We're going to cover it in a different context today based on a conversation or a call, somebody that called my KPFT show yesterday at KPFT 90.1 FM in Houston. We had the show on air yesterday, and the person called in, and he was concerned about Medicare for all and all the things that he's been hearing about Medicare for all costing quite a bit more. But before we get into the program, I want to remind all of you that are just coming onto the program to please remember to go ahead and share, especially in this program. There is a whole lot of misinformation on Medicare for all. There is a lot of misinformation on Medicare for all. And what I'm going to try to do today is I'm going to try to explain it in P's and Q's in an interesting way to get folks to understand exactly why we need it. And not only why we need it, why it works, and why absent Medicare for all, that in effect, what we're doing is pilfering the middle class. What we're doing is we're taking monies away from everybody, because the $1 that folks have to spend is the money for their health. I mean, you can let other things go. You cannot buy the pool. You cannot buy the car. You cannot buy a whole lot of these things, right? But the one thing is, when you get sick, you have to get healed or you die. And if you die, it's not just about you. It's about all those that you've left behind. It's all the things that you've left behind. So therefore, it is one of those things that you have to spend. And that there is a class of people that take advantage of you having to spend that money to pilfer you and to make a whole lot of you. You have to understand that there is a solution to it. Medicare for all, single-payer Medicare for all is the solution for it, and we're going to go over it. I hope some of you will give me a call at 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. I'm asking you to please go ahead and share this program. It is so important that we get this program shared, because we're going to discuss things of vast interest to many. We need to get a critical mass on Medicare for all. We need to get people who understand this stuff out there refuting the plutocracy who continues to fool Americans. We really need to do this. This is existential. And I mention this all of the times. This is existential. We can't sit back and allow folks to continue to just lie about something, to continue about mislead about something that have people so scared that they vote against their own interests. There's one group of folks that say, well, I have good health care with my job. Why would I want to do anything else? Well, folks, you have good health care with your job now. The thing about it is, as the years go by, and the system craters, remember that job that you have, their responsibility is not to you. Their responsibility is to their shareholders, not to you. So eventually, what hits everybody else is going to hit you. Even those people that with good jobs, with good benefits, you will be hit as well. So please, folks, if you're just joining us, I ask you to please share this show, and not only share this show today, but share this show going forward, because we're going to talk some interesting things about Medicare for all, single-payer Medicare for all, what it is, exactly what it is. And if you have questions, I'd like you to put it under the video, or just go ahead and give us a call as well, 646-716-5812. I have a blog. First, after I get started with the show, I just want to tell folks a few things real quickly. Former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort has agreed to cooperate with the Justice Department, including a special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation of Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. Manafort pleaded guilty to one count of conspiracy against the U.S. and one count of conspiracy to obstruct justice due to attempts to tamper with witnesses, according to court filings Friday. Prosecutor Andrew Weissman told the judge Manafort's plea agreement is a cooperation agreement, and other charges will be dropped in sentencing at the agreement of successful cooperation. Manafort had proffered information to the government already, Weissman said in a federal court in Washington, D.C. So as you can see, folks, things are moving. Things are really moving. Again, folks, this is a show on Medicare for All, Single-Payer Medicare for All. Title of the show, Let's Get Real About Single-Payer Medicare for All one more time. If you're just joining us, please share this program on your wall, on your Twitter, on your Tumblr, on your page, everywhere. Okay, now the subtitle of the show, we must talk about single-payer Medicare for all ad nauseum, because healthcare is existential and the corporate pilferers continue to mislead. We cannot allow the corporate pilferers to continue to mislead. Okay, why do we spend so many shows on single-payer Medicare for all? Because the stakeholders in our healthcare industrial complex continue to mislead Americans. They want Americans to believe that a healthcare system that works throughout the world will not work in America, and for that, we must bankrupt citizens for the enrichment of a few. To be clear, the American healthcare system is unethical, immoral, and devoid of humanity. It will take a lot of work to change it, but that work begins with education, and that is our job. Let us make sure to share this. Let us make sure to educate. Folks, this is an important subject, and I ask you to go ahead importantly and share. Before we get busy, I'm going to read the very important blog of the week, but I want to tell you something about numbers here and about sharing and about Facebook and these other platforms. What's going on right now is information like this is getting screened. Information like this is getting crippled. There are a lot of folks who have done tests to see what actually got shared and how things appear in people's feeds. If it is that you don't overpower the algorithm by sharing something that is of import to you, it throttles down pretty quickly. What it means is less people get to see it. So we depend on our listeners, we depend on our watchers to go ahead and share these programs widely, especially as they go along and see it and throughout the program. Not only one time, but throughout the program. And the reason why is this is understood. All of these, including this platform that we are on right now, is a corporation, right? And it's a corporation that does advertising as well, right? Facebook has advertising, and all these other groups have advertising. So of course, there will not be anything that could somehow upset the status quo. Sometimes gets throttled. And like I said, there are people who've done tests on the types of programs that get throttled. I saw a very great incident. I brought a politician in here, and we had two feeds going. One was a personal feed. One was a feed of this of the page. The personal feed has just a few users, and everybody, the few users that he had, a lot of them got notification that video was occurring, and people tuned in. In our video here now, we don't get what I've been told by a whole lot of folk is as we start these programs that notifications are supposed to be sent to people, it never gets to them. Let me tell you, our platform right here, between our Politics Done Right page, our Willie's Media LLC page, our and several other pages that we have over 70,000 people that have connected to us. And I can guarantee you that probably 10 to 20 people, and I'm not talking 20,000, 20 people finally got a notification that we are on. That is what's happening in our sphere. And just the test showed that when we had that person in here using a personal feed as opposed to a page feed. So we are dependent on others if we want to get our message out, to go out there and share it and force feed it and share it and share it. Absent that, the plutocracy would have won in crippling the messaging, in crippling what can get to you. So anyhow, before I start with the program, I want to play the piece that, and I didn't cue it up before, but what I'm going to do is play the piece from yesterday's show at KPFT 90.1, where this person called and asked a question, and I told him, look, everything that people are saying with respect to it being more expensive, I'm not going to argue with that, because you know what? Here it goes. I think here it goes.
All right, Scott, line one. Come on in, Scott.
Yes. I have been hearing that Medicare for all would cost trillions of dollars in taxes. Is that accurate?
Yes, it's accurate. Whenever Republicans and even Democrats, Blue Dogs or whatever tell you Medicare for all, single payer is going to increase the amount, the budget expenditures by a bunch, they are absolutely telling you the truth.
Okay.
But here's the deal. Will the taxes increase also to pay for that large budget increase? The answer is also yes. But that is what you want. Let's say you make $50,000 a year. And let's say your federal income tax for that $50,000 turns out to be $5,000 a year. Okay?
Yeah.
Additionally, let's say that your family is paying $1,000 a month in healthcare insurance. Your total expenditures that you have to spend, because you have to have insurance and you have to pay your federal taxes, is $17,000.
Okay.
However, so that is a must spend on your part. However, if now you can always go to the doctor, forget about having a card, forget about having insurance, you just show up at the clinic when you're sick.
Okay.
What it's going to cost you in extra taxes would be your $5,000 in taxes and maybe another $5,000 based on progressive, your progressive, how much you make. But let's just do an average. So whereas before you were paying $17,000 for federal income tax plus insurance, now you only pay $5,000 in federal taxes, and let's say it's $5,000 or $7,000, even $7,000 in health insurance. But here's the kicker. Even now, when you have your health insurance, you have deductibles. Some people have $5,000 deductible. Some people have $2,500 deductible. So that is really another tax, right? If you're using the health care, you have to get past your deductible first. So that $17,000 that I told you about without Medicare for all could actually be like $20-something thousand for the family. But I got to finish here. But if you have Medicare for all, you pay taxes. And that's it. There's no deductibles. There's no anything like that. They may have to institute co-pays to control folks not just going out there for a little cut or something like that. I don't look. There are ways to do this, but other countries do it already. And every other country in the world, that have better outcomes than we do in healthcare, they cost a whole lot less. It's a math problem. Don't let anybody lie to you. It's a math problem. Medicare for all, it's a mathematical fact that it costs the individual less. Who it hurts are corporations who have been pilfering the middle class by collecting money for premiums and partitioning some of that money not to healthcare but to enrich people that do absolutely nothing.
Okay, folks, I hope you got that. I hope you understood what I was saying there. But here's the deal now. I'm going to go to the blog of the week, because what I'm going to do is further explain what we spoke about there, because it is very, very important that we go over that.
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay, so the weekly blog post, the title of the weekly blog post is Single-Payer Medicare for All will increase taxes, but you should want that. Folks, if you're just joining us, please remember to share this on your wall. Please remember to share this on your page. Facebook and these other social media platforms have been throttling progressive information and all these programs, and we've even did a test right here in this office to show how these pages get throttled down. But anyhow, folks, what we want to do is we want you to go ahead and share as soon as you can. Share on your page, share on your wall, share everywhere, because this is important information. And unless we get this information, unless we understand this information, we will allow the plutocracy, we will allow the corporations, we allow all these folks to screw us. We allow these folks to start telling us. We allow these folks to continue ripping us off. And I know we all know better than that. But anyhow, single-payer Medicare for all will increase taxes, but you should want that. And here's how it goes. I got a call from a Politics Done Right listener who said he heard that single-payer Medicare for all would increase the taxes of most people and it would increase government expenditures. That's the person that I just played previously. And I told him that, in fact, it would raise taxes for most, but that it is not the whole story. To be clear, every individual will be better off for precise reasons. And here we go. Here is an absolute statement. If one entity is paying for our medical bills, it is much more efficient. It is much more efficient if you have one person paying for a medical bill, okay, than multiple companies paying for that bill. Let's say we have 100 health insurance companies. When you add that, each company has to have its own executives, a board of directors, advertising budgets, capital costs, computer equipment, accountants, risk managers, and a myriad of other expenses. And I want to stop there because I mentioned risk managers. The reason insurance companies have to have risk managers is they have to manage the people that come in. Obamacare put some rules against that, but they have to manage the rules, the people that come in, because their goal is to manage risk so that they can maximize the amount of money that they keep, that you pay them. In other words, when you pay them premiums, they want to hold on to as much of that money and give it to the investors and the corporation leaders and the CEOs. They want to keep as much of that money. How do they do that? Risk management. Try your best to get mostly healthy people. Advertise in certain markets while you don't advertise in other markets. All kinds of things that you do that maximize the healthy people that you get, right? So that's what you do. And after you do that, the next part of maximizing the profits for your corporate leaders and your shareholders is to deny coverage. So whenever you're on that phone for 2 and 3 hours and 5 hours trying to get approval for a procedure, their goal is to make sure you don't get that procedure, because if you don't get that procedure, that's more money in the coffers for that company. And so there are two techniques that they use, right? One is attrition. They make you beg for a service, and you either give up or you die, right? And if you're dead, they never have to pay the service. If you give up, they don't have to pay the service. This is their business model. The business model of health insurance is to deny as much coverage to you as possible. Remember, they don't work for you, they work for the shareholders. We have to get that in our heads. For us to really move off of this immoral system, we have to understand exactly how they work. They are not in business to serve you. They are in business to make money for their shareholders. It is immoral, and that's why I said there are certain areas where capitalism doesn't work, and healthcare is one of those areas. Continuing. If you want advertisement, it illustrates what we actually see. Expensive insurance. So that's the reason insurance is expensive, because they have all those costs. If there is one payer that covers everybody, single-payer Medicare for all, then all of those duplicated costs go away, and some functions are virtually unnecessary. Like, again, you won't really need a risk manager because all of us are in one pool. You don't have to mitigate your risks if you cannot select people to join. If you're in Medicare for all, healthcare for all, everybody is covered. So therefore, you don't need a mitigating officer to mitigate risk or anything like that. That subject is much less complex than it sounds. Anyhow, continuing. Private insurance companies also have shareholders. shareholders demand dividends and ever-expanding stock appreciation at a higher rate than inflation or a higher rate than the expanding economy. That is one reason among many others why health insurance rates are rising faster than inflation. We always sit down and say, inflation is not high. Why is it every year the insurance go up by 10, 20, 15%, 20%? Why? If the costs of the increased costs and things are not going at that level. The reason that occurs, shareholders want a high return. The only way to give shareholders a high return is to take away your money. That is how it works. If that shareholder is investing in an insurance company and they want more money from that insurance company, the only option that insurance company has is to increase your prices and deny you services. There's no other option of making money. There's a tiny little other option. They could invest, which they do. They can invest the money that you pay in premiums, right? They invest the money that you pay in premiums in bonds and other things. But if they make a bad call there, they can lose their shirts. AIG. Anyhow, continuing. That is a reason why, among many others, why health insurance rates increase faster than inflation. This same issue applies to pharmaceutical companies who raise rates not to create better drugs, but to ensure better value for their shareholders and corporate bonuses. Folks, it's rigged, it's a scam, it's immoral, it's unethical, but that is our healthcare system right now. But we have to get away from the bells and whistles. I mean, you go into an insurance company, it's beautiful. You have nice chairs to sit down when you're signing up for all these plans. Oh, it's beautiful. And you have nice music playing, and it's nice. And when you go to your doctor and you figure out, oh, wow, I got a break. I only have to do the copay. Oh, wow, so good. Well, you paid so much money up front. Folks, we've been indoctrinated into certain procedures and the way things work, and we think they have to be that way, which they don't. The economy isn't divine. We created it, so therefore we can decide how it is going to operate going forward. So unless we get there, but we have to educate ourselves. That's what I'm trying to do with programs like this. That's what we are trying to do in the progressive space with these types of programs. And that's why we ask you to go out there and share these programs, because we get throttled for trying to educate the masses on how things really work. And why do they throttle us? Because they know an educated population is not going to allow a few people to pilfer them. An educated population is not going to allow a few people to take advantage of them. An educated population will not allow the plutocracy to bankrupt them, to take everything that they have, to be completely extractive. And that's why we do this, folks. That is why we do this. That is why we do this. Anyway, private insurance companies also have shareholders. Shareholders demand dividends and ever-expanding stock appreciation at a higher rate than inflation or higher rate than the economy. That is a reason, among many, why insurance companies' rates are raising faster than inflation. The same issue applies to pharmaceuticals. Look, folks, let me tell you this. I gave the caller a hypothetical example for illustrative purposes to counter the fallacy that somehow single-payer Medicare for all is detrimental to the individual. The opposite is true. Again, the numbers I'm using are just illustrative for illustrative purposes, as the real numbers are dependent on the basic services that will form part of the new system, the new single-payer Medicare for all system. So look, let's say a family making $50,000 may pay $5,000 in federal income taxes and $12,000 in insurance. That $12,000 goes to an insurance company, of course. That insurance usually has anywhere from $500 to a $10,000 deductible. Some people are lucky they can get away with a $500 deductible. In my case, is that when I had my software company, running full-time with my software company, I had a $10,000 deductible, and I was paying over $1,200 a month in insurance for myself and my wife. My daughter had another policy at the University of Texas, and when we did it all together, it was even more expensive. So what I'm trying to tell you, folks, is this stuff affects real people, and a lot of folks just don't talk about these issues as they're affecting what we do quite often in the United States of America is to suffer in silence. What I try to do is to say we don't need to suffer in silence. We need to air these things out so that people understand what's going on. And when I'm done with the blog of the week, folks, I hope you give us a call, 646-716-5812. It's the number on the screen if you're on Blog Talk Radio, 646-716-5812. Okay, so we start out with that person who makes $50,000 and maybe they pay $5,000 in federal income taxes, and then they probably have to pay about $12,000 in healthcare costs. Okay, there are traditional. Now let me correct that number that I gave there. That doesn't include the current. Remember, we currently have Obamacare, which for a person making $50,000 would be subsidized with their insurance. Okay, there are traditionally co-pays associated with it as well. So even with the insurance and level of payments, if one uses healthcare, they can still be relegated to bankruptcy. In effect, out-of-pocket expenditures for healthcare and taxes can leave little for all other standard household and living expenses. That's the reality today. That is the reality today. And that reality is not getting better no matter what Republicans tell you or anybody else tells you about competition. I'll talk about competition later on, because competition in healthcare makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. In healthcare delivery, competition is an oxymoron. It makes no sense. It's not something that you can choose to buy, or you can run ahead and shop to see which one is better. That's not how it works in healthcare. Okay, single-payer Medicare for all simplifies everything and costs less in the aggregate. That same person who made $50,000 will still pay his $5,000 in federal income taxes. They may pay, who knows, maybe $5,000 in healthcare taxes. So instead of paying $12,000 to the health insurance company, they may be paying $5,000 to the healthcare taxes. And it is that entity, either the government or a nonprofit the government creates or bids for, that goes ahead and pays the bills, which means there are no advertising costs, no CEOs, no any of those kinds of things duplicated in having a whole bunch of insurance companies. The taxes would actually be progressive, meaning if you make less, you pay less. If you make more, you pay more. Every single American would have access to health care without concern for deductibles. Let me back up. There's a study that was done by the right wing, and believe it or not, and I'm coming to you next, telephone caller. Please stay on the on there. I'll be coming to you. If you really want to talk, though, please push the button 1. Push the number 1 so that we know that you're not just listening, that you also want to talk, and then I'll put you on. So you have to press 1 so I know that you want to talk. All right, continuing. Let's see where I'm at. Okay, so there are traditional co-pays and all of that still goes on. But like I was telling you now, if you would only pay $5,000 in taxes as opposed to, let's say, $12,000 in insurance to the private insurance company who gives that money to the privateers and everybody else. The taxes would actually be progressive, meaning if you make less, you pay less. If you make more, you pay more. Every single American would have access to health care without concern for deductibles. One could actually plan their life without a fear of worrying that if they get sick, their entire outcome changes, including the possibility of bankruptcy. Some balk at this as being too utopian. Where is the money going to come from? First of all, doctors' offices will no longer have to have large staffs to handle the fight with dozens of insurance companies. You know, doctors spend a lot of time trying to get paid. They have people calling insurance companies all day, coding how much this costs, how much that costs. That's gone. It's one payer. That means lower costs for office visits. Additional money comes from not having to pay shareholder dividends, overpriced executive, bonuses, and all the duplicate expenditures we spoke about earlier. But that is only the beginning. As you move towards single-payer Medicare for all, we must start other reforms. It won't be easy because all of the stakeholders, pharmaceutical companies, hospitals, etc., will fight to keep their cash cow. I'm coming to you in a minute, caller. Most drugs are not discovered or designed or invented by huge pharmaceuticals who continue to loot the middle class. They are created with NIH dollars, grants at universities and elsewhere. When it is time to formalize them as drugs for the masses, capitalists buy and then overcharge for the drugs. Ironically, the government You, the taxpayer, who paid to develop the drugs in the first place, do not partake of the profits. Drug companies want large rewards, large profits with no real risk. We must rein this in sooner rather than later. Many doctors leave school with hundreds of thousands in debt. We must institute some sort of merit system that allows doctors to go to medical school for free and then pay it forward by dedicating some years in the public sector. We must regulate hospitals to prevent them from charging inordinate rates just because they think they can. Our healthcare system needs a complete revamping. It's inefficient and immoral. We must first understand that capitalism and the market do not work in healthcare delivery. It couldn't possibly work. From a math problem, from a mathematical reasons, capitalism and the market and healthcare do not mix. There are very specific reasons beyond the scope of this post why that is true, and we can discuss that actually after I get to the caller. The transition must begin now. It must include support for all of those who will lose their jobs as inefficiencies are extricated, but we must get started right now. Caller, you are on. What's your name? Caller, you're
Bruce
on.
Pollard.
Bruce, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. So I've been looking at these numbers,
Yes.
kind of the same way you have been off and on.
Mm-hmm.
There are some things that have to happen for this to work. One is efficiency has to be gained.
Right.
And one of the major places efficiency might be gained is in people who are down at the lower end now and don't have insurance at all, might have diabetes or something, and instead of going to the doctor early when they can get proper treatment, they might wait and then have to have an amputation.
Right.
And that's a huge cost.
Right.
So that's one area that efficiency can be gotten. Certainly the drug company negotiations can be one. I still worry, though, when you add the whole thing up, and I've been doing this a couple of times, I still worry that the total amount of dollars that are going to be paid by the middle class person is going to be significantly more than what I'm paying now.
Okay.
Of course, when I talked to the last person that asked me give me an example of something that the government is doing well in single payer, and I say, well, I think that my Medicare is doing pretty good.
Right.
They immediately are quiet and they say, oh, it works.
Right. Let me tell you something when I call it a math problem, Bruce, because I don't know how people go ahead and add these things up, right? I can make the statement that I'm making by simply looking at our system today without even doing any detailed analysis. Let me give an example. We know how much we spend right now in total health care, meaning how much money is going to banks, going to insurance companies. We also know that in this country, even that amputation that person eventually has to get, they're getting it now. And it's done inside of the, it starts out in an emergency room, the amputation gets taken care of, and then the person gets kicked out of the hospital. But in effect, you are paying for that right now with your insurance premium. So I know that, you see,
right.
A lot of folks like to look at the healthcare system as an open system, right? I look at it as a closed system. And I think you have to look at it as a closed system because, again, even the uninsured right now form a part of that system. You get in an accident and you break your leg, that person still gets taken care of. What happens is the very important thing you mentioned about efficiencies. Now, if everybody had care right now, a lot of things that come in later would come in earlier. But I'm not even talking about that alone. I'm talking about things as follows. If you have 100 insurance companies, and I don't know if you heard the entire blog of the week, but if you have 100 insurance companies, and if you know that these insurance companies are private and also have shareholders and have CEOs and have marketing budgets and have computer systems,
the markup is about 20%.
Exactly. The markup from insurance.
You can actually say the published numbers now
Right.
show the markup is about 20%.
And let me tell you, that
In fact, Mr. Cruz, Senator Cruz was on the air with an interview recently, and
2
he
days
worked
ago.
through this, and he said, so at the end, we're going to have to pay for people out of the taxes for the people who can't pay. And
course.
we do that now.
Yes.
The interesting thing is the money comes from a different pot.
Right.
It comes from state pots and many other pots, and it comes from my pocket when I pay whatever's negotiated
Exactly.
instead of my fair share when I go to the hospital.
Exactly. And but you know, it's even deeper, my brother, and it goes as follows, because remember, we're only talking right now. Notice I said it's not. We don't stop at insurance, because at insurance recover. First of all, that 20% is not real. That 20% is what the maximum Obamacare allows insurance. I mean, when the Obamacare law was passed, it went from 70% to having to be 80%. Okay. In other words, it was that they had to pay out. I mean, they had to pay out. Well, there wasn't a limit to what insurance companies could keep. Actually, they could pay out whatever they could get away with. Now they have to pay out 80% or give the money back to the people. Okay, so none of these corporations want to give the money back to people. So what they do is they say, okay, it's 20%. But here's the deal: there are so many. You know about accounting. There are so many ways to make things expenses so that it turns out that even certain bills that are paid as medical bills are really expenses to the insurance company. There's a lot of ways to get around that 20%. So I am not convinced that an insurance company could really increase their performance as they have since Obamacare and not find a way to fudge the system to really continue making the same types of profits. So I would almost bet a right arm for that. But here's the other thing. It's not only...
Yeah, you might be right. The numbers that I used to get the 20% were last year's total health care costs, which are well published now, so you can actually look at the numbers and see how they're all split out.
Exactly. So, I mean, there's a whole lot of convolution that occurs there. Now, here's the kicker now. But that is not what we're talking about, because those are not where we have the savings and all of that. Remember, we can get back all but 3%, because Medicare right now costs about 3% in administrative costs, you know, all the computer systems and paying the people who work there. So let's assume that 20% is correct. 17% is what we can recover, however many trillions that is that we get back. Secondly, drugs in this country, and there's a book that was written, I don't remember the name of the book right now. Most of the drugs that these companies claim, the reason why that they charge the amount of money they charge for the drugs is because of the research they have to do, because most drugs don't turn into viable products, et cetera, hogwash. Most of the research in this country...
Yeah, well, all the research is paid for by the government.
Exactly. So. And then it's monetized and capitalized by private corporations. So therefore, we pay twice for drugs. We pay to invent the drugs, we then pay to market the drugs, and then we pay to use the drugs. We have to be... but most Americans don't know that. So when the drug companies tell that story, and somebody like me look like some pinko trying to go ahead and take away what these guys have earned or take away innovation. Drug companies are there to make money. They're not innovative. They're not innovative because they don't want to take risks that can take too much from their bottom line. So they jump onto the bandwagon if a little company have developed something or some researcher has developed something. We have to understand how that works. So that's another issue with solving the drug pharmaceutical companies. So to put it bluntly, I would have it that any pharmaceutical company that takes a drug, that half or more of the profits from that goes right into the coffers of the government, because again, that is the investor. The government was one of the major investors to get it there. But you know what? Because we don't know that we should be demanding that. Because Americans don't know that, they don't know that they should demand the return on their investment. So if you're a capitalist, that should sound pretty good. The government should get a return on its investment. The other part that we have to talk about as well is hospital charges, right? I left this blog at Daily Kos. One of the persons came back and said, but the hospitals can hardly stay open. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Bruce, you go any part of Houston and you see the construction that is occurring on hospitals right now. And you tell me that somehow hospitals are having a hard time paying their bills. You know, there's accounting and then there's accounting. And if hospitals, again, these are businesses, private businesses. If hospitals are having problems paying their bills, you don't continue to see hospitals being built. It just does not compute. So you don't have to see the numbers to understand that. If they're building hospitals, it means it is profitable, because they wouldn't build otherwise.
Yeah, so all of these things for me, I've come down to one thing, and that is we have to stop maybe with the numbers and say, well, we care about everybody.
Right.
And we want everybody to be healthy and to have a good life. And therefore, we need to do this single payer thing so everybody has a chance of having a good life.
And Bruce,
that's my bottom line. I'll hang up.
Yeah, thank you, Bruce. Thank you very much. That is what Bruce just said there is the moral argument that we've always are tried to make. When people say we cannot have this insurance because we can't afford it, what does that mean when we say we can't afford it? If we can't afford it, does it mean we let the persons who get sick die? You get what I'm saying? You can't. If you're discussing healthcare policy, and somebody says we can't do that because we can't afford it, that is equivalent to that person saying we can't afford it, and therefore that person must die. Here in Texas, our government and let me this applies to many other states. So those of you that are listening from other states, please stay tuned to this, but I want to make this a Texas-specific statement. And the reason I want to make it a Texas-specific statement is I want Texas, when Texans go to the polls in November, I want them to remember that the current party in Austin cannot be considered anything other than murderers. And I know that's harsh, but murdering means to kill knowingly. Again, murdering means to kill knowingly. And those politicians in Austin, in as much as the Affordable Care Act gave them free money for a whole 3 years, and then 10% for the Medicaid expansion after 3 years, after getting it free for 3 years, after that they only had to pay 10%. Assuming the state wanted to say they couldn't afford 10%, they could have at least gotten 3 years of health care for their indigent in this state. Texas is the state with the largest uninsured population, bar none. Texas is. Big state that likes to tout its economy. Big state that likes to tout its opportunity for people. Big state with the largest uninsured group, the largest uninsured set of people in the entire country. The entire country. Okay? So now, let's remember this. The politicians in Texas knowingly killed a lot of their citizens by denying them coverage, and in so doing, we lost, I don't remember the study, don't quote me, but look it up, but I think I'd blogged about it, and it was about 2,000 people per year. The deaths of those people are on the hands of the Republican politicians who voted against the Affordable Care Act Medicaid expansion in Texas. Above and beyond that, because the folks in Texas and every state that denied accepting the Affordable Care Act, the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, this applies to the Republicans in those states as well. So when you go to the polls, you have to vote accordingly. You either vote for murderers or you vote for civil, moral people who care about human beings. And a lot of you are going to say, that sounds uncivil and harsh. Tell that to the family of the dead people who could not afford insurance. So am I sounding harsh by making that statement? Yes. Do I want to sound harsh by making that statement? Yes. Should I be harsh making that statement? Yes. Because it is true. It is absolutely true. So therefore, when you go to the polls, if you vote for politicians in Texas who do not or did not support the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act that could have saved thousands of Texans. If you're in Texas and you vote for them, you are in effect saying it is okay to vote for murderers. And that doesn't only apply in Texas, that applies in Kansas, that applies in Alabama, that applies in Louisiana, until Louisiana got a Democratic governor who decided to then get the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act and provide its citizens with care. Folks, this is no joke. And this isn't about civility here. I'm on the Coffee Party Network as well. This program is shown on the Coffee Party Network, and we preach civility. What we don't preach is acquiescing to death, or acquiescing to murder, or acquiescing to those who would harm you. This is serious. Healthcare is serious. And if we don't start being serious about it, they will continue to walk over us. There's no reason that I am paying, or in the case now, $1,200 a month in insurance. And boy, are you happy to see $1,200 a month. And you wonder though, my God, what about those who cannot afford it? What happened to those who can't afford it? We have to get real, folks. We have to get real. Now, earlier I meant, and folks, you can give me a call at 646-716-5812. What I'm going to do right now before I go into my next soliloquy is go ahead and look at look to see if there are any things that people are asking. But I would love to have some other people call. Thank you so kindly for calling in, Bruce, and making the statements that you've made. Let's see. We have Michael Rudnin, who says, let's see. Let me go from the beginning. Michael Rudnin says, from the beginning, Single-Payer will save taxpayers $500 billion annually by cutting out insurance industry overhead and collective bargaining for cheaper prescription drug prices. And he prints the pnp.org story that I think I have on my website as well. Deidre Scott, thanks for covering this topic, Egberto. I need to get a deeper understanding on what single-payer Medicare is. If you have any question at any time, Deidre, please feel free to ask any specifics that you have. We try to talk about it as best we can. And if we, for some reason, don't have the information for you, by gosh, we are going to get it for you, because what we want is an informed populace. Okay, Michael D. Newton, welcome aboard, my dear fan. My dear friend. Michael Rudnin, I predict Trump's impeachment starts in February 2019. It's starting to look that way. May Wood, hello, May. Vanessa Freeman, welcome aboard. Kelly Lincoln, my friend from Daily Coast Radio. How are you doing, Kelly? I trust that all is fine. For folks who don't know, Daily Coast has its own station, and Kelly is one of the protagonists. Very good protagonist. She's a hell of an interviewer. So check it out. Go to dailycoast.com. Okay, I have line 713. Come on in, 713. Come on in.
Hello?
Yes, you're on.
Hey, what's going on, Alberto?
Oh, all is going good. Talk to me.
I like watching your show, man. You have some of the most interesting people come over there with the most, some of the most perverse, I don't even know where they get some of the information from. It just drives me a little crazy. I don't know how you do it.
Well, look, we all have to work together. This is not a one-person effort at all. Let me tell you something, okay? We have on Politics Done Right some of the best listeners, researchers, everything. If you take a look at Rudnin, who constantly give us links on the page, I love the way he does it. You listen to somebody like Bruce Pollard, who comes on and makes his statements. You look at folks like Marianne Castiglia, who's always been here with good questions. You look at Kathleen. I mean, we have great people listening to our show and being a part of the show as well. And thank you for joining us. I hope you're enjoying what you're hearing.
Oh yeah, I like to watch it in your group talks and listen to your reasoning. And I've never been, like the big fan of socialism or democratic socialism, but your definition of it or your look at it is kind of changed my perspective just a little bit. It's kind of swayed me some.
I'm glad to hear that, because what happens is the corporatocracy, the plutocracy, the oligarchy, they must malign that. There's nothing wrong with democratic socialism. It doesn't destroy free enterprise. I have a software company. I still have it. I just have it down to making no money. But I haven't killed a software company. But here is the deal. The truth of the matter is, I believe, like everybody else in free enterprise, I want to be able to create products and go on the market and sell it. I believe in those things. But I think a moral economy, my friend, an economy that is morally set, knows that we have to look out. Could you turn that down a little so that, because I think we are about 4 seconds behind. But for a moral, for us to have a moral society, we have to have the division between what is corporate or what is free enterprise or in the market and what is not in the market, meaning what has to be socialized. And I think medicine, for that matter, has to be socialized if we want to be able to reach people. And why? Let me explain something. I put your mic on mute for now. I'm going to put you back on when I'm done making this statement. It is important, right, for people to understand why we cannot talk about markets and healthcare. When you break your leg, right, you don't get a chance to shop around and figure out where you're going to go. When you have thyroid problems, you have to look for the best center in your area or the closest one that you can go to and can afford. There's no market there. There's no choice. Also, we have to stop thinking of healthcare as a product, right? A product is something that you can decide to have or not have. So therefore, you have choices. We in America attempt to make absolutely everything into a product. And that is immoral because a product isn't humanity. And when we learn that, we would know where to divide it. And the concept that I'm talking about, it's actually what's called democratic socialism. And people, what happened is people have given that word socialism a stigma because of what the definition is in the dictionary. I don't know how they came up with that definition in the dictionary where it says, oh, the government controls all sources of production. That's crap. No, I don't want the government to control all. I don't want we the people to control all sources of production, because we of the people are also individuals and we can think of things that we want to do within our own spheres. But there are certain things that go beyond us doing individual things, and that is where democratic socialism come in. So, anything else you want to add, my friend?
Well, yeah, I was just trying to figure it out. How we make that particular thing work, seeing as though we have this inundation of underpaid or unemployed doctors because of insurances and. Yeah. How do you make that fit and retrofit it into an already broken educational system?
I'm glad you asked that, because that is exactly what I spoke about in the beginning of the blog, and I've spoken about it in other blogs. The first thing I would do is as follows, right? I would first, when in making a change to this system, the first thing I would do is forgive the loans of all doctors. Every single doctor's loans would get forgiven. And people say, oh my God, you can't do that. That is $100 billion or whatever it is. I don't know what it is. I just call that number.
Probably more than that.
I have no clue what it is. But here's the deal. We were able to create money to revamp the system, right? To revamp the banking system. When the banking system went into a freeze, we created money. All those credit default swaps that were worth nothing, we were able to rebuild them. So what we do, if we want to fix the real medical system, the first thing we do is forgive the loans of all the doctors that are outstanding right now. Some folks are going to say, well, that is not fair to those who paid their bills. To which I say, you're right. So maybe to be a little fairer, after we pay the bills off of all outstanding doctors' bills going, doctor and staying involved, we may then go ahead and somehow give some sort of a break or a deal or something to doctors. I don't exactly know, but again, these are things we can discuss. But what that is important, forgive the loans of doctors. The second thing we do is going forward, we go ahead and we educate doctors that are capable, folks that have the aptitude to be doctors, that really want to be doctors. They go to school for free. With paying it forward. They pay it forward. What does pay it forward mean? You're going to work in the public sector. You're going to be a doctor. You're not going to be $1 million doctor. You're going to be a doctor given a fair wage, which we I don't know what that is. It's above my pay grade, but all those are things that can be worked out. Because what we're doing is we're taking it out of the capital markets. We're taking doctrine. We're taking those particular parts of society out of the capital markets. People then say, well, what about innovation? Well, you innovate something, and when you innovate something, you will get your reward for the innovation. And if it becomes a critical mass, just like we've done with a whole lot of things, later on it may become commoditized or whatever.
Innovation and application, two different things.
Right, exactly. So what we have to understand here is that, first of all, Russia, their economy sucks or whatever, but it never stopped them from having innovative technology. In other words, there's a lot of innovation out of these communist countries that were developed in the communist countries. I definitely don't believe in communism. I like liberty. I like creating my own company and selling my stuff on my own markets. I love that. Anybody trying to tell you that the policies that we support is just trying to take away innovation, it's crap. It is a scare tactic. It is that people just...
So would we still take, because there's countries like India, China, they give America allowances for allowing their doctors to come over here and complete medicine and work.
We will look. Let me tell you something. Of course, if a foreign person is coming into this country to get an education, of course they'll pay, because when we say that we're giving doctors a free education, it means the education for the doctor is free, but all us taxpayers are paying for that doctor to go to school. So if a foreigner comes into the country,
transplants will be paid for the country. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes. So
that's cool.
So what I'm saying,
all right then. I didn't mean to just keep y'all up, and I just wanted to poke at y'all. Like watching your show.
Thank you so kindly, sir. You have a wonderful day. Okay.
You too.
All right, folks. So anyhow, so that is what we're talking about here. Now, what we have to do is we really have to spread the message, and just like my friend who was just on the call here. Was made to buy into all the negatives of the things that we want to do. If we can just go out there and share and tell folks about these stories, then we don't have a problem, because people would be made aware. Let me go down the list real quick. Vanessa Freeman shared. Thank you so kindly, Vanessa. Michael Rudnin, anyone else getting an echo? Oh, I didn't know there's an echo. I wish somebody would have told me that. Let me go ahead and make sure that that's off. Okay, good. I think if you're still getting an echo, you shouldn't anymore, Mr. Rudnin. Okay, Michael Rudnin, single payer will increase your taxes while eliminating your... Exactly right. Let's see what else I have here before I go, because I have to go do my pitch. Okay, would dental care be included? Yes, according to Bernie Sanders, in the plan that Bernie Sanders is talking about, Kathleen, he wants Medicare for all to cover dental as well. Let's see. Michael Rudnin, the Koch brothers did a study showing single payer would save the taxpayer. Imagine that. A right-wing organization did it, and that's what it came out and said. You're absolutely right. Thanks for pulling that up again. Don't forget, let's see. I'm not sure what that is. Okay, before ACA, that was from Bruce Pollard. 45,000 deaths from lack of health care. Absolutely so. Healthcare fares. Thank you so kindly for that, Bruce. That's what he wanted to talk about, the healthcare fares that we have for people who I think are uninsured. Democratic socialism simply puts it, creating a government that prioritizes people's needs above all other concerns. Absolutely so great. I love the way you actually said that. Caller volume too high. Sorry about that. I'll try to go ahead and do the volume a little bit better, Michael. Let's see. Anyhow, just tell me, you guys, when you see that, tell me. I just didn't see that in time. Okay, folks, we are at the end of the program right now. I hope you enjoy what we had to say, but most importantly, I hope that you go ahead and share the program, because we do need folks to be aware of what's going on here. That is the only way we're going to make a change. And do remember, we need your support. I ask you, if you're listening now, to go to patreon.com, patreon.com/politics done right, and become a subscriber. Subscriber next to nothing. Buy Politics Done Right a coffee a month or something like that. Buy a coffee or something for Politics Done Right. That is equivalent to what it is. I ask you to go to patreon.com/politics done right. That is patreon.com/politics done right. That is how we are going to ensure that we can get our message out. And I shouldn't even say ensure we get our message out. I should be saying ensure we get the message out, because what the others are actually doing, my friends, is they're not giving you the message. They are trying to indoctrinate you into believing that things are to vote against your own interests, to indoctrinate you into telling you that things that are good for you are really not good for you. We are here to tell you, folks, the truth. And again, we have no other loyalty but to you. And what we ask for those of you who have the wherewithal, the ability to just go ahead and give us a small subscription to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. That is patreon.com/politicsdoneright. This is the end of the program. I thank you so kindly for having stayed with us. I thank you so kindly in advance for continuing to share this program. We need you to do so badly because, like I said, we get throttled on social media because these topics are rather controversial, and generally speaking, it's something that the corporatocracy, the plutocracy, the oligarchy is not fond of, and that's the type of society we have, so we have to beg to get our information into the ethos. My name is Egberto Willies. Please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright and subscribe. Again, my name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you know how I end the show every time. I am out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.